I'm Megan Thompson, 42 years old, and I never thought I'd be plotting revenge against my own brother. Last Thanksgiving, my 16-year-old daughter Lily spent weeks crafting a hand-painted photo frame for her Uncle Nathan. When she finally presented it, beaming with pride, Nathan picked it up, examined it with cold eyes, and said, "Cheap, worthless trash." Then he tossed it aside like garbage. As Lily ran from the room in tears, Nathan reminded me with a smug smile that he controlled our family trust fund. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If my family drama already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up to toxic family members. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how this ends. Growing up as part of the wealthy Thompson family had its privileges, but those came with invisible chains. Our father, Richard Thompson, built his real estate empire from nothing, and he never let us forget it. "Nothing in life comes free," he'd say, especially when denying something I wanted. Strangely, that rule didn't seem to apply to Nathan, my brother who was 3 years younger than me. In the early years, Nathan and I were inseparable. We built blanket forts in the living room of our Manhattan penthouse, created elaborate fantasy worlds in the garden of our Hamptons summer home, and defended each other when our father's temper flared. I still remember 8-year-old Nathan standing up to our father when he criticized my piano recital performance. "Meggie played beautifully," he had insisted, his little hands balled into fists. Everything changed when our mother died. I was 15, Nathan 12. Mom had been our buffer, our protector, the one who made our house feel like a home despite Dad's demanding nature. Without her, Dad threw himself even deeper into his work, and Nathan began to change. While I retreated into academics and art, Mom's passion that I inherited Nathan sought Dad's approval with increasing desperation. He abandoned his love of science fiction novels and astronomy for business magazines and golf, Dad's favorite pastimes. It worked. Dad began taking Nathan to the office on weekends, teaching him about the family legacy while I was left to navigate adolescence alone. By the time I graduated high school as valedictorian with a full scholarship to Columbia, Dad barely noticed. He was too busy celebrating Nathan making the junior varsity basketball team. When I earned my teaching degree and fell in love with David, a brilliant but not wealthy architect, Dad made his disappointment clear. "You could have been so much more, Megan," he said at my wedding, the closest thing to a toast he offered. Nathan served as best man to David, seeming genuinely happy for us, a glimpse of my old brother returning. That was the last time I saw that version of him. After Lily was born, Nathan visited less frequently. When he did, he brought extravagant, age-inappropriate gifts and undermined our parenting decisions. "Let her stay up, Meg. Don't be so uptight," he'd say to a toddler who would be cranky for days afterward. When David died suddenly of an aneurysm 5 years ago, Nathan stepped in financially, but emotional support was non-existent. "David should have had better life insurance," he commented at the funeral reception, as if my husband's death were a poor business decision. 2 years ago, Dad passed away, and the real nightmare began. Despite my business degree and years helping Dad with smaller family properties, he left Nathan in control of everything: the company, the family trust, even our childhood home where Lily and I now lived. The will contained a modest monthly allowance for us, but all major decisions required Nathan's approval. At first, I was too grief-stricken to fight it. Then the subtle power plays started. Nathan forgot to transfer our allowance, forcing me to call and essentially beg for money that was rightfully ours. He questioned every expense, from Lily's art classes to home repairs. My salary as a high school art teacher covered basics but not much else, especially with Lily's college years approaching. There were small cruelties, too. Nathan would invite us to family events at the last minute, ensuring we'd arrive underdressed and unprepared. He'd make comments about Lily's artistic ambitions within earshot. "Hope you have a backup plan, kid. Thompson women don't have what it takes in the real world." When I confronted him, he'd laugh it off as just joking or remind me how generous he was being. I tried reasoning with him, appealing to our shared childhood, even attempting family therapy. Nothing worked. Nathan only became more controlling, more dismissive. Several times, I caught him making snide remarks to Lily about her art, her appearance, her future prospects. Each time, I intervened, but the damage to her self-confidence was already done. Despite everything, I maintained the facade of family harmony. I invited Nathan to holidays and birthdays. I sent thoughtful gifts and cards. I tried to keep Lily connected to her only uncle, the last link to her paternal heritage. I convinced myself that maintaining peace was worth swallowing my pride. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. After Lily fled from the dining room in tears, the perfectly roasted turkey and homemade cranberry sauce forgotten, I turned to my brother with fury building inside me. "What is wrong with you, Nathan? She spent weeks on that gift." Nathan lounged back in his chair, swirling the expensive bourbon he'd brought and poured only for himself. "She needs to develop a thicker skin if she wants to be an artist. Critics won't coddle her like you do. She's 16, not a professional seeking your critique. She's your niece giving a gift from the heart." Nathan snorted. "Heart doesn't pay bills, Megan. Something you never understood." He set his glass down with deliberate precision. "Speaking of bills, that's actually why I invited myself to this charming little Thanksgiving disaster." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "The family business is streamlining operations, cutting unnecessary expenses." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Your monthly allowance is being reduced by half, effective immediately." "You can't do that," I gasped. "The will gives me discretion over fund disbursements," he interrupted. "I'm exercising that discretion. Consider yourself lucky I'm not cutting you off entirely." I gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. "We can barely make ends meet now. Lily's college applications are due soon. The house needs a new roof." About the house, Nathan cut in again, examining his manicured nails. "I'm considering selling it. The property values in this neighborhood have skyrocketed, and frankly, it's a waste keeping it as a residence when it could be developed." "This is our home, Nathan, the place we grew up, where Lily grew up." "It's a Thompson family asset," he corrected coldly. "And I decide what happens to Thompson family assets." He stood, straightening his custom suit jacket. "You have until January to find alternative arrangements. Consider it a Christmas gift that I'm giving you that much time." He walked toward the door, then paused, turning back. "Oh, and Meg? You might want to encourage Lily to pursue something practical. Not everyone has the luxury of indulging useless passions. Art is for people who can afford hobbies." The front door slammed behind him, leaving me standing in the dining room, surrounded by the Thanksgiving dinner I'd spent days preparing. For several minutes, I couldn't move, couldn't think beyond the blood pounding in my ears. Finally, I forced myself up the stairs to Lily's room. I found her curled on her bed, clutching the sketchbook her father had given her on her 10th birthday. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her face blotchy from crying. "He hates my art," she whispered as I sat beside her. "He's always hated it." I wrapped my arms around her shoulders. "Your uncle is a very unhappy man who doesn't understand the value of beautiful things." "It took me 3 weeks to make that frame," Lily said. "I used the special layering technique Miss Winters taught us in Advanced Studio." I thought since it had that photo of Grandpa and him fishing, he might actually like it. My heart broke all over again. I hadn't known she'd included that particular photo, a rare moment when Dad had shown genuine joy with Nathan. It made her uncle's cruelty even more incomprehensible. "Can I see what you made?" I asked gently. Lily hesitated, then reached under her bed and pulled out the discarded gift, still in the handmade wrapping paper she'd designed. I unwrapped it carefully, gasping when I saw the frame. It was exquisite hand-carved wood, painted with an intricate pattern of blues and greens that perfectly complemented the fishing scene. She'd added tiny details, miniature fish jumping from the water, clouds that seemed to drift across the sky, even Dad's characteristic tilted fishing hat. This is museum-quality work, Lily, I said truthfully. It's absolutely beautiful. She shook her head. Uncle Nathan said, Uncle Nathan wouldn't recognize real art if it hung in the Louvre with his name on it, I interrupted firmly. Trust me on this. I'm an art teacher, remember? A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Then, hesitantly, she added, It's not just today, Mom. He's always making comments about my art. Last summer at the family picnic, he saw my sketchbook and said I should stick to doodling since that's all it would ever be. At Christmas, he asked if I was still wasting time with finger painting when I mentioned applying to pre-college summer art programs. Each revelation was like a dagger. How had I missed these interactions? How long had my brother been systematically undermining my daughter's confidence while I naively tried to maintain family connections? Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Lily shrugged, suddenly looking much younger than 16. You always seemed so happy when we all got together as a family. I didn't want to ruin that. And, she hesitated, he's your brother, and he pays for stuff we need. The shame that washed over me was overwhelming. My daughter had been silently enduring her uncle's cruelty because she thought our financial security depended on keeping him happy, because I had inadvertently taught her that. Listen to me, I said, taking her hands. Nothing, absolutely nothing is more important to me than you. Not money, not this house, not family obligations. Your art is a gift, and nobody gets to make you feel small because of it, especially not Nathan. As Lily finally drifted off to sleep that night, emotionally exhausted, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the beautiful frame. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica, my closest friend since childhood, who now worked as a financial analyst at Nathan's company. Need to talk. Nathan's in trouble. Business and personal. Call me. I stepped onto the back porch and dialed her number. Megan, I shouldn't be telling you this, Jessica whispered when she answered. But Nathan's been making risky investments with company money. The board is asking questions. There are rumors about improper use of trust funds, too. What kind of improper use? I asked, my mind racing. I don't have details, but he's been pulling unusual amounts from accounts that should be untouchable without trustee approval. Accounts your father set up years ago. As I listened to Jessica outline what she knew, a plan began forming in my mind. For years, I'd been the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed things over for the sake of family harmony. That ended tonight. Nathan had threatened my daughter's future and our home. He had manipulated and bullied us for too long. It was time for Big Brother to learn that the art teacher he dismissed so easily still had a few lessons to teach him. The following Monday, I called in sick to work and drove to the offices of Bennett and Associates in downtown Boston. Walter Bennett had been my father's attorney for over 30 years, a distinguished man in his 70s who had always treated me with a warmth my father rarely displayed. His secretary recognized me immediately. Miss Thompson, it's been ages. Let me see if Mr. Bennett is available. Minutes later, I was seated across from Walter in his book-lined office, the smell of leather and pipe tobacco bringing back childhood memories of visiting Dad at work. Megan, what a pleasant surprise, Walter said, though the concern in his eyes suggested he sensed this wasn't a social call. I need to talk about Nathan's management of the family trust, I said, getting straight to the point. Something isn't right. Walter's expression grew guarded. As you know, I'm bound by attorney-client privilege. My father was your client, and I'm a beneficiary of the trust. Doesn't that give me some rights to information? Walter sighed, removing his glasses to polish them thoughtfully. Your brother has been selective about what documents and information he shares with me since taking control. It's unusual, given the firm's history with your family. What's he hiding? I pressed. I can't speculate. But, Walter hesitated, then opened a drawer and withdrew a folder. These are copies of the original trust documents your father established. You're entitled to these, at least. I suggest you review them carefully. As I flipped through the pages, Walter added quietly, Your father was a complicated man, Megan, but he wasn't a fool when it came to business. He built in safeguards. I left with the folder and a business card for a forensic accountant Walter happened to know. His parting words stayed with me. The trust has quarterly review provisions that haven't been properly observed. Perhaps it's time they were. That afternoon, I met Jessica at a cafe far from her office. She slid a USB drive across the table with trembling hands. "I could get fired for this," she whispered. "But what he's doing isn't right." The drive contained financial records showing Nathan had diverted nearly $2 million from the family business to personal accounts over the past 18 months. There were also emails discussing creative accounting to hide losses from risky investments. "He's dating Amber Walsh now," Jessica added, naming the daughter of Thomas Walsh, Nathan's biggest business rival. "People are talking. Some think it's a genuine relationship. Others say he's using her to get information on Walsh properties." "What do you think?" I asked. Jessica frowned. "I think Nathan doesn't do anything without an angle, but Amber seems genuinely into him. She's at the office all the time, bringing him lunch, sitting in on meetings she has no business attending." This was useful information. If Nathan was mixing business with pleasure, it might create vulnerabilities I could exploit. Over the next week, I built a detailed picture of my brother's life. I discovered he had leveraged several family properties as collateral for personal loans. He had alienated longtime business partners with his arrogant management style, and most importantly, he had failed to file required trust accounting reports for the past 3 quarters. My research led me to Mrs. Martinez, our childhood housekeeper who had retired when Dad died. She welcomed me into her modest apartment with open arms and homemade churros. "Your brother fired me, you know," she revealed as we sat at her kitchen table. 2 weeks after the funeral, said the new housekeeper needed her own staff. 30 years with your family. And he dismissed me with 2 weeks severance. "I had no idea," I said, ashamed once again at how much Nathan had hidden from me. Mrs. Martinez patted my hand. "Not your fault, mija. But maybe you should look in your father's private study. The real one, behind the library." I stared at her in confusion. "What private study?" She smiled sadly. "Richard kept many secrets. In the library, behind the edition of Moby Dick on the 3rd shelf, there's a button. It opens a hidden door to his true office. The combination to his safe is your mother's birthday." That night, after Lily was asleep, I slipped into the library of our family home, the home Nathan planned to sell from under us. I found the button exactly where Mrs. Martinez had described. The hidden door swung open silently, revealing a small, austere office I never knew existed. The safe was concealed behind a painting of the Boston Harbor. Inside, I found a leather journal, my father's private thoughts, and a stack of legal documents that made my blood run cold. Dad's journal revealed growing concerns about Nathan's character in the years before his death. "Nathan shows brilliance in business," one entry read, "but lacks moral compass. Too eager to cut corners. Reminds me of Charles in the bad days. Must reconsider succession plans." The legal documents were even more shocking. Amendments to the trust that would have given me equal control, drafted but never signed. Notes about establishing a separate trust for Lily's education. And most damning of all, a letter addressed to me, dated just days before Dad's sudden heart attack. "Megan," it read, "I have done you a disservice in favoring your brother. Recent events have caused me to question his judgment and integrity. We need to discuss changes to the family arrangements. I have instructed Walter to prepare new documents. It's time to correct my mistake." Dad had died before he could sign anything. Had Nathan known about these plans? Had he deliberately hidden these documents from Walter and me? I photographed everything, then carefully returned the items to the safe. Armed with this new information, I reached out to Ryan Donovan, a financial advisor friend who had worked with the Thompson business in the past. "I need to understand our legal options for challenging Nathan's control," I explained over coffee at his office. Ryan nodded sympathetically. "The trust documents Walter provided show clear violations. Nathan's failed to provide required accountings, made investments outside his authority, and potentially commingled personal and trust assets, All grounds for removal as trustee. Hope surged through me. So we can challenge him? It won't be easy, Ryan cautioned. Legal battles like this get ugly and expensive. But yes, with proper evidence, you have a case. What I didn't know was that Ryan had been cultivated by Nathan years ago. Less than 3 hours after our meeting, my phone buzzed with a text from my brother. Interesting chat with Ryan today? Back off, Megan. You have no idea what you're getting into. Think of Lily before you do something stupid. The threat to my daughter made my decision clear. Nathan had drawn first blood years ago. Now it was my turn to strike back, but I would need to be smarter and more careful about who I trusted. The Boston Academy of Arts and Sciences was housed in a magnificent colonial building surrounded by manicured grounds. As I walked up the stone steps for my interview, I reminded myself that this wasn't just about securing a better job, it was the first move in my chess game against Nathan. Charlotte Reynolds, the art department director, greeted me with a warm hug. We had been roommates at Columbia before losing touch after graduation. When I discovered that Nathan was trying to enroll his stepson Tyler in this prestigious private school, reaching out to Charlotte had been my first strategic move. Your portfolio is outstanding, Megan, Charlotte said as we toured the facilities. We've been looking for someone with your background in mixed media instruction. The previous teacher left suddenly, and we're desperate to fill the position before the spring semester. It seems like fate brought us back together, I replied, genuinely impressed by the art studios and resources. This position would pay nearly double my current salary, with benefits that included on-campus housing, a convenient solution to Nathan's eviction threat. There's a school fundraiser this weekend, Charlotte mentioned. You should come, meet the board, some parents, might help solidify your candidacy. The fundraiser was being held at the Ritz-Carlton, where Boston's elite gathered in formal attire to sip champagne and pretend their donations weren't tax write-offs. I spent a week's grocery money on a second-hand designer dress and arrived prepared to charm. What I wasn't prepared for was seeing Nathan there, with Amber Walsh on his arm. He spotted me across the room, his expression darkening instantly. I pretended not to notice as I circulated among board members, discussing my teaching philosophy and ideas for expanding the arts curriculum. I was recording the entire evening on my phone, waiting for the right moment. It came during the auction portion, when Nathan had consumed several glasses of scotch. I positioned myself near his table, back turned but phone angled to capture audio. $50,000 for the Aspen ski weekend, Nathan called out, overbidding dramatically on a package worth half that. Quite generous, remarked an older gentleman at his table. Nathan laughed too loudly. Tax deductible. Besides, need to make sure Tyler gets into this place. Their wait list is ridiculous. Might as well buy my way in, right? There were uncomfortable chuckles, Nathan continued, unaware I was recording. These artsy schools are all the same. Pretend to be about merit, but roll out the red carpet when you flash enough cash. Tyler's mom thinks he's some kind of creative genius, but the kid can barely draw stick figures. Doesn't matter, he'll get in. Several board members shifted awkwardly. I slipped away, catching Charlotte's eye across the room. She had been within earshot and looked mortified. Nathan spotted me as I was speaking with the headmaster. His eyes narrowed as he strode over, drink in hand. Well. My big sister crashing the party, he announced loudly. Bit out of your price range these days, isn't it, Meg? I maintained my composure. Hello, Nathan. Lovely to see you too. What are you doing here? He demanded, alcohol making him careless. Miss Thompson is interviewing for our advanced studio art position, the headmaster explained, clearly uncomfortable. Nathan barked a laugh. Megan, teaching here? That's rich. She couldn't even manage her own finances after David died. Had to come begging to family. The headmaster excused himself rapidly. I stood my ground, smiling placidly as Nathan continued. Is this your new angle? Trying to embarrass me at my stepson's school? It won't work. Nobody here cares about your little art projects. Actually, Charlotte interjected, appearing beside me, we care very much about Megan's expertise. The board was extremely impressed with her credentials. Nathan's face flushed. I've pledged over $100,000 to this institution. How generous, Charlotte replied coolly. We appreciate all our donors, Mr. Thompson, just as we value all our faculty based on merit rather than connections. Nathan glared at her, then at me. This isn't over, he muttered before stalking away. Later that week, Lily came home from school upset. Tyler texted me, she said. Uncle Nathan is furious about something. He was yelling about you trying to sabotage him. I sat beside her on the couch. Tyler texted you? I didn't realize you two were in touch. We follow each other on Instagram, she explained. He's actually really nice, not at all like Uncle Nathan. He says his stepdad barely talks to him except to criticize his interests. This unexpected connection between our children presented both an opportunity and a complication. What else did he say? Lily pulled up their conversation. He says Uncle Nathan's been acting weird lately. Paranoid. Some business partner called looking for missing paperwork, and Nathan freaked out. Tyler says the only time Nathan pays attention to him is when he's trying to force him into business summer camps and stuff. I felt a pang of sympathy for Tyler, caught in Nathan's controlling grasp just as we were. But I couldn't afford to lose focus on my plan. The following day, I anonymously emailed Nathan's business partner James with documentation of Nathan's embezzlement, carefully removing any trace that would lead back to Jessica. I included just enough evidence to raise serious concerns without showing my full hand. Nathan's reaction was swift and predictable. He stormed into my classroom during my lunch break, face contorted with rage. What did you send to James? He demanded. I looked up calmly from my sandwich. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't play innocent. Financial records only you would care about finding. This has your fingerprints all over it. I tilted my head. You know, Nathan, if you're this worried about your business partner seeing your financial records, maybe the problem isn't who showed them to him. His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. You think you're clever, but you're playing a game you can't win. I control everything, Megan. Your home, your financial security, even your precious daughter's future. You seem paranoid, Nathan. Maybe the pressure of running Dad's business is too much for you. His laugh was ugly. Gaslighting now? Amateur move. You have 30 days to get out of the house. I'm cutting the allowance completely. Let's see how brave you are when you're scrambling to keep a roof over your head. After he left, I allowed myself a moment of panic. He was escalating faster than I'd anticipated. That night, Lily found me staring at rental listings I couldn't afford. Are we really going to lose the house? She asked in a small voice. I don't know, sweetheart, I admitted. But we'll be okay no matter what. She burst into tears. This is all my fault. If I hadn't given him that stupid gift— No, I interrupted firmly, pulling her into a hug. None of this is your fault. Uncle Nathan has been heading down this path for years. Your gift just showed his true colors. As I held my sobbing daughter, my resolve hardened. Nathan could threaten me, but making Lily cry was unforgivable. The next morning, Charlotte called with news that felt like the universe confirming my path. The board voted unanimously. The position is yours if you want it. Including housing? I asked, hardly daring to hope. Yes, there's a lovely 2-bedroom apartment in the faculty residence building. It's yours starting January 1st. One problem solved. When Nathan learned I had secured both a job and housing at the school where he was desperately trying to curry favor, his fury manifested in a barrage of threatening texts that I saved as further evidence of his instability. My first strike had landed. Nathan was rattled, making mistakes, but I knew this was just the beginning. He would retaliate, and I needed to be ready. December arrived with bitter cold and the prospect of our last Christmas in the family home. I had been carefully packing sentimental items, preparing for our January move to campus housing, when the doorbell rang on a Saturday morning. Nathan stood on the porch with 2 burly men in moving company uniforms. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Thought I'd help with your packing, sis. Before I could protest, he pushed past me, directing the movers toward the living room. Start with the artwork and antiques. The inventory list is on your clipboard. What inventory list? I demanded, blocking their path. You can't just take things from our home. Nathan pulled a document from his coat pocket. Actually, I can. This is the official Thompson family property inventory. Everything listed belongs to the trust, not to you personally. I snatched the paper, scanning in disbelief. It included nearly every valuable item in the house, artwork, antiques, even family heirlooms. This is ridiculous. Mom's pearl necklace? Dad's first edition books? These belong to the family, not the trust. They belong to me as trustee, Nathan corrected smugly. I'm simply securing assets that you might be tempted to misappropriate before vacating. The movers looked uncomfortable, but continued toward a painting that had hung in our foyer since childhood, a landscape of the Cape Cod shore where we had spent summers together. Stop! Lily appeared on the staircase, still in her pajamas. You can't take that. Grandma painted it. Nathan barely glanced at her. All the more reason it belongs with someone who will appreciate its value. I appreciate it, Lily hurried down, positioning herself between the movers and the painting. It's my connection to a grandmother I never met. For a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across Nathan's face. Then his expression hardened. Being sentimental about objects is a luxury for people who can afford to be impractical. Something your mother never taught you. Lily's chin trembled, but she stood her ground. You're not taking it. Nathan's voice turned silky. Speaking of things your mother never taught you, respect for your elders might be a good start, especially ones who fund your extracurricular activities. I stepped forward. What are you talking about? Lily's summer program at Rhode Island School of Design? Her portfolio development classes? The anonymous donor who funds her scholarship? Nathan's smile was venomous. Not so anonymous after all. Lily's face paled. You're the one who pays for my art classes? Surprise, Nathan said mockingly. I've been subsidizing your little hobby for years, and just as easily, I can stop. I had never wanted to physically harm someone until that moment. My hands curled into fists as Lily stared at her uncle in horror. You wouldn't, I whispered. Try me, he turned to the movers. Continue, gentlemen. My niece will step aside. Lily looked to me, tears welling in her eyes. I gave her a small nod, and she reluctantly moved away from the painting. For the next 2 hours, we watched helplessly as Nathan's men stripped our home of its most treasured possessions. Family photos, heirloom furniture, even the antique desk where I graded papers all loaded into the truck. When they reached for the handcrafted jewelry box that had been my 16th birthday gift from Mom, something in me broke. I clutched it to my chest. Please, Nathan, not this. It's all I have left of her. For a heartbeat, I thought I glimpsed my old brother in his eyes. Then he blinked, and the cold stranger returned. Fine. Keep your trinket box. Consider it a Christmas gift. As the truck pulled away with our treasures, I turned to Nathan with what I hoped looked like desperate surrender. What do you want from me? To beg? Fine. I'm begging. Please reconsider what you're doing to us. He studied me, satisfaction evident in his posture. It's too late for that, Meg. You made your choice when you started digging into my business. Actions have consequences. I'll stop, I promised, forcing my voice to crack. Whatever you think I'm doing, I'll stop. Just don't punish Lily for my mistakes. Nathan's smirk told me he believed he had won. I'll consider reinstating a modest stipend, if you behave, and if you publicly apologize at the family Christmas party next weekend. After he left, Lily and I sat amid the empty spaces where our family history had lived for generations. Did you mean that? She asked quietly. Are you giving up? I squeezed her hand. Sometimes appearing to surrender is the smartest strategy. Your uncle only saw what he wanted to see me, broken and submissive. What Nathan didn't know was that I had photographed and documented every item he took, adding grand theft to my growing case against him. The Thompson family Christmas party was held annually at my Aunt Patricia's Back Bay mansion. Patricia, my father's sister, had always treated me with cool indifference while doting on Nathan. As we arrived, she greeted him with effusive warmth before giving me a perfunctory air kiss. Megan, darling, Nathan told me about your situation. So unfortunate. What exactly did he tell you? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She lowered her voice. That you've been making wild accusations, trying to challenge the trust arrangements. Really, dear, Richard knew what he was doing when he put Nathan in charge. I realized then that Nathan had been systematically poisoning the family against me, preparing his defense before I even launched my attack. The evening proceeded according to Nathan's script. He clinked his glass for attention and announced that I had something to say to the family. All eyes turned to me expectantly. I stepped forward, feeling Lily's concerned gaze. Family has always been important to me, I began carefully, especially during difficult times. I want to thank Nathan publicly for his generosity in managing the family's affairs. Nathan nodded approvingly as murmurs of agreement circulated. I continued, choosing each word precisely. Sometimes grief and financial pressure can make us see problems where none exist. I regret any misunderstandings that have arisen. It wasn't the groveling apology Nathan wanted, but it was enough to satisfy the audience. As guests dispersed to the dining room, Aunt Patricia cornered me by the Christmas tree. Nathan showed me what you've been up to, she said accusingly. Contacting his business partners? Investigating trust documents? He's considering legal action, you know. My stomach dropped. What exactly did he show you? She waved dismissively. Enough to know you're causing trouble. Richard would be ashamed. And what has Nathan offered you to take his side? I asked quietly. Patricia's face flushed. He's addressing the repairs on my summer house that Richard always promised to fund. Unlike you, he understands family obligation. So Nathan had bought her loyalty. Another betrayal to add to the list. Later that evening, I slipped away to use the restroom and noticed Nathan's coat hanging in the hallway. Acting on instinct, I quickly checked the pockets and found a small key with a safe deposit box number engraved on it. The next morning, I met with Walter at his home, away from prying eyes at his office. Nathan's completely cut me off financially, I explained. He's taken family heirlooms from our home and turned Aunt Patricia against me. Walter sighed heavily. He's growing desperate. The board meeting didn't go well. James raised questions about missing funds. I showed him the photos I'd taken in Dad's secret study. I found these documents. Dad was planning to change the trust before he died. Walter studied the papers, his expression grave. These never reached my office. If Richard intended to modify the trust arrangements, this changes everything. There's more, I added, describing the safe deposit box key. Walter thought for a moment. I believe your father kept boxes at Boston First National. As co-executor of his estate, I might still have access. Leave this with me. 2 days later, Walter called with news that made my hands shake. We found your father's amended will in the safe deposit box. It's fully executed, dated 3 days before his death. It establishes you as co-trustee with equal power to Nathan. The bank had notification documents, but they were never mailed out. Nathan intercepted them, I realized aloud. It appears so. This is serious, Megan. Document suppression, potential fraud. That same day, I received a text from an unknown number. This is James Westbrook, Nathan's partner. We need to talk about the financial records you sent. Meet me tomorrow? Nathan's carefully constructed house of cards was beginning to collapse. The text from Amber Walsh arrived 2 days after my meeting with James Westbrook. Need to talk about Nathan, not what you think. Coffee tomorrow? I agreed with caution, suspecting a trap. We met at a quiet cafe in Cambridge, far from Nathan's usual haunts. Amber looked nothing like I expected, no designer clothes or perfect makeup, just a petite woman in jeans and a sweater, dark circles under intelligent eyes. Thank you for meeting me, she said, hands wrapped around her mug for warmth. I know you probably think I'm just Nathan's trophy girlfriend. I try not to make assumptions, I replied carefully. She gave a tired smile. That's refreshing. Nathan makes nothing but assumptions about me, that I'm with him for his money, that I'm spying for my father, that I'm too stupid to understand his business discussions. Why are you with him then? I couldn't help asking. Amber's expression darkened. It started as a business thing. Dad suggested I get close to him, learn about Thompson's development plans. But then, she hesitated. Nathan can be charming when he wants something. I actually thought I saw something real in him. And now? Now I know better. She pulled out her phone, showing me a text message from Nathan. Need you to access your father's Kensington project files. Use your usual excuses. He's been using me to get information on Dad's projects, Amber continued. Then I found this on his computer. She showed me an email from Nathan to a development company, offering insider information on Walsh Properties' bids for city contracts. He's selling my father out while pretending to care about me. I'm sorry, I said, genuinely sympathetic despite my suspicions about her motives. But why tell me? Amber met my gaze directly. Because he's terrified of you. He's made 3 separate calls to his lawyer about containing the Megan situation. Whatever you're doing, it's working. And you want to help me. Why? Because he hurt me, she said simply. And from what I've seen, he's hurt you and your daughter too. Some men don't stop until someone makes them. I considered her offer carefully. What exactly are you proposing? I have access to his personal email, financial records, even recordings of business calls he doesn't know I made. It's all yours if you want it. It seemed too perfect, the enemy's girlfriend offering critical intelligence. How do I know this isn't Nathan setting me up? Amber smiled grimly. Smart question. Let me prove my sincerity. She pulled out a USB drive and slid it across the table. This contains evidence of Nathan diverting funds from your father's charitable foundation to a shell company. Check it. Verify it. If you decide to trust me, there's much more where this came from. Our alliance was tested sooner than expected. That weekend, Nathan spotted us talking at a cafe and confronted Amber publicly, calling her a spy and backstabbing bitch in front of dozens of witnesses. The next day, Amber called me in tears. He's locked me out of everything, his apartment, email accounts, even changed the office security so my badge doesn't work. But I backed up everything before he suspected. With Amber's help, I gained access to a trove of incriminating documents. Records of Nathan's embezzlement from company accounts, evidence of tax fraud, and most damning of all, emails proving he had intercepted and hidden our father's amended will. The evidence also revealed Nathan's systematic sabotage of his business partner James. Nathan had deliberately undermined deals James negotiated, then blamed the failures on James's poor judgment. He had even fabricated performance issues to present to the board. Armed with this information, I arranged another meeting with James, who was now fully convinced of Nathan's betrayal. The board meets next month, he told me. With this evidence, we can remove him as CEO. But the family trust is separate. You'll need to challenge that in court. I have what I need for that too, I assured him. Nathan's growing paranoia made him increasingly reckless. He showed up unannounced at Lily's school art show, confronting me in the crowded gallery. You think you're so clever with your little spy girlfriend, he hissed, alcohol heavy on his breath. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I'll destroy you both. This isn't the place, Nathan, I warned, aware of people watching. I decide where and when, he shouted, grabbing my arm. You think you can take what's mine? Everything Dad built belongs to me? Charlotte appeared beside us instantly. Mr. Thompson, you need to leave. Now. Stay out of this, Nathan snapped. I've already called security, Charlotte replied calmly. And as a witness to your behavior, I'll be filing an incident report that will definitely interest the school board, especially regarding Tyler's application. Nathan's face contorted with rage, but he released my arm as security approached. This isn't over, he spat, before storming out. Charlotte turned to me with concern. Are you all right? Yes, I said, shaken but relieved. Thank you for intervening. That man has no business being near children, she said firmly. I'm banning him from campus, effective immediately. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. Tyler, Nathan's 16-year-old stepson, appeared at our door one rainy night. "Can I stay here?" he asked, duffel bag in hand, rainwater dripping from his hair. Nathan kicked me out, said I was ungrateful and disrespectful. Lily looked at me pleadingly. I couldn't turn away a teenager in need, especially one caught in Nathan's toxic orbit. "Of course you can stay," I said, ushering him in. "What happened?" Tyler's story tumbled out between sobs. Nathan had been drinking heavily, raging about betrayals and conspiracies. When Tyler defended his artistic interests, Nathan had thrown his sketchbooks out the window into the rain. He said I was turning into a useless dreamer like Lily, Tyler recounted, then immediately looked horrified. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "It's okay," Lily assured him. "I know exactly what Uncle Nathan thinks of my art." I called Tyler's mother, who was traveling for work. She was distraught but grateful Tyler had come to us. "Nathan's been impossible lately," she admitted. "I've been thinking about leaving him, but financially—" "I understand," I said, all too familiar with the golden handcuffs Nathan used to control people. Tyler stayed with us for 3 days, during which Nathan left increasingly threatening voicemails, blaming me for poisoning his stepson against him. "You're dead to me," his final message declared. "You and your brat. I'm selling the house to developers. They'll tear it down for condos." While devastating, his threats gave me more evidence of his instability and vindictiveness. What Nathan couldn't know was that I was helping Tyler reconnect with his biological father, who was eager to reestablish a relationship and had the resources to challenge custody arrangements. By mid-December, Nathan's world was beginning to implode. Anonymous social media accounts, created by Amber, began highlighting questionable Thompson business practices. James strategically leaked concerns to key investors. Walter prepared legal filings, challenging the trust arrangements based on the discovered will. Nathan was cornered, and like any wounded animal, that made him more dangerous than ever. Lily's 17th birthday fell on a crisp January Saturday. Despite our impending move and ongoing battle with Nathan, I was determined to make it special. Charlotte had offered the school's art gallery for a small celebration, where Lily could display some of her work for friends and family. The space was transformed with fairy lights and flowers. Lily's paintings and mixed media pieces adorned the walls, showcasing her growth as an artist. Her friends from school arrived first, followed by a few supportive teachers and Mrs. Martinez, who brought her famous tres leches cake. As Lily was opening gifts, the gallery door banged open. Nathan stood in the entrance, disheveled and wild-eyed. The room fell silent. "Quite the celebration," he sneered, weaving slightly as he walked in. "Enjoying the last of your freedom before I destroy you?" I stepped between him and Lily. "You need to leave. Now." "It's a public event, isn't it?" He gestured grandly to the small crowd. "Thought I'd see what all the fuss was about. My niece, the great artist." He lurched toward one of Lily's paintings, a haunting piece depicting a young girl surrounded by shattered glass. "Is this supposed to be profound?" he mocked. "Looks like the scribbling of a child." Lily's friends huddled protectively around her as I tried to steer Nathan toward the exit. "You're drunk. This isn't the place for whatever you're trying to do." He shook off my hand. "Don't touch me. You think I don't know what you've been doing? The calls, the meetings, turning my own partner against me?" "Nathan, I sold it," he shouted, his voice echoing through the gallery. "Your precious family home. Signed the papers yesterday. Developers break ground next month. They're going to tear it down to the foundation." Gasps rippled through the room. Lily paled, but stood tall beside her artwork. "That's not all," Nathan continued, his voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "I've contacted every art school on the East Coast, told them about Lily Thompson's history of plagiarism and forgery." "That's a lie," Lily cried. "Doesn't matter," Nathan smirked. "Once doubt is planted, well, admissions committees are cautious people. Can't risk their reputation on a student with questions." Something inside me finally snapped completely. The years of bullying, manipulation, and cruelty crystallized into perfect clarity. I stepped forward, my voice steady and clear. I know about the embezzlement, Nathan. The diverted funds, the false accounting, all of it. His smirk faltered. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about the intercepted will, Dad making me co-trustee, the documents you hid from Walter. Nathan's face flushed dark red. Lies. You have nothing. I know about the fraudulent board reports, the money from the foundation, the trust accounts you've been draining. With each accusation, Nathan's composure crumbled further. Lily had quietly moved to stand beside me, her phone discreetly recording. You're making wild accusations because you're desperate, Nathan sputtered, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. Everything okay here? James Westbrook appeared in the doorway with a tall man in a suit, Nathan's lawyer. Nathan spun around. James! What are you doing here? Miss Thompson invited me to see her daughter's impressive work, James replied smoothly. Though I'm more interested in these accusations you seem so concerned about. Nathan lunged toward me, finger jabbing the air inches from my face. You conniving bitch, you planned this. Mr. Thompson, his lawyer interceded, grabbing his arm. I strongly advise against making threats in front of witnesses. Nathan wrenched free, knocking over a small sculpture in the process. She's been plotting against me for months, turning everyone against me with lies. Are they lies, Nathan? I asked calmly. Or are you finally facing the consequences of your actions? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. He grabbed a nearby vase and hurled it against the wall, sending glass and water spraying across the room. Everything was mine, he shouted, advancing toward me again. Dad knew you were too weak to handle the business, too emotional, just like her. He gestured wildly toward Lily, creating useless pretty things while I did the real work. Charlotte stepped forward. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, Nathan laughed hysterically. They can't touch me. I'm Richard Thompson's son, the only one who matters. As if on cue, 2 police officers appeared in the doorway. Is there a problem here? Before anyone could respond, Nathan pointed at me. She's been hacking my accounts, stealing company information. Arrest her. The older officer looked between us. Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. Calm down? Do you know who I am? Nathan's voice had risen to a shriek. I'll have your badge. I'll have all of you ruined. The officers exchanged glances. The younger one stepped forward. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us. Nathan Thompson, the older officer interjected. We have a warrant for your arrest on suspicion of financial fraud and document tampering. The color drained from Nathan's face. What? That's impossible. We received some very interesting documentation from the DA's office this morning, the officer continued. If you'll come quietly, sir. Nathan looked around wildly, seeing nothing but hostile or pitying faces. In a desperate move, he bolted for the side exit. The younger officer caught him easily, pinning him against the wall to handcuff him. This is your fault, Nathan shouted as they led him away. I'll get out, and when I do, the door closed on his threats, leaving a stunned silence in the gallery. James approached me slowly. I'm sorry about that. When you invited me, I had no idea. Neither did I admitted. But perhaps it's fitting that his true nature was finally revealed in public. As the guests gradually departed, Lily stood beside me, still processing what had happened. Is it really over? She asked quietly. I put my arm around her shoulders. The beginning of the end, at least. And as I surveyed the aftermath of Nathan's tantrum-broken glass, scattered flowers, shaken friends, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness for the brother I had lost long ago. The news about Nathan's arrest spread through Boston's business community like wildfire. My phone began ringing with calls from family members who had previously ignored me, each one suddenly remembering our special bond and expressing shock at Nathan's behavior. Aunt Patricia's call was particularly difficult. I had no idea things had gotten so bad with Nathan, she insisted, her voice brittle with forced concern. If I'd known what he was doing to you and Lily— But you did know, I replied quietly. I tried to tell you at Christmas. Well, I didn't understand the full extent, she backpedaled. Anyway, I'm calling to mend fences. Family should stick together in times of crisis. I thanked her politely, but maintained my distance. The time for Fairweather family had passed. The legal proceedings against Nathan moved with surprising speed, given the mountain of evidence James and Walter had compiled. Nathan was charged with multiple counts of embezzlement, fraud, document suppression, and even witness intimidation based on his threatening messages to Amber and me. His initial court appearance showed how far he had fallen. Gone were the tailored suits and arrogant smirk, replaced by prison-issued clothing and hollow eyes. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, but his lawyer's body language suggested they were already negotiating a plea deal. Walter helped me file for emergency control of the family trust, presenting the discovered will to the probate court. The judge, visibly disturbed by the evidence of Nathan's manipulation, granted temporary conservatorship while the criminal case proceeded. "It's not everything yet," Walter cautioned, "but it freezes any further sales or transfers of assets, including the family home. That was my first priority, stopping the sale of our home to developers." Fortunately, the buyers backed out quickly after learning about the legal complications and Nathan's arrest. With access to trust resources restored, I was able to secure proper financing to purchase the property outright from the trust, ensuring it would remain in the family. The deeper I dug into Nathan's financial dealings, the more victims I discovered. Small businesses he had squeezed with predatory lending, employees dismissed without cause when they questioned practices, former friends whose investments had mysteriously evaporated. "What should we do about all this?" I asked Walter, as we reviewed the growing list. "Legally, you're not obligated to make amends for Nathan's actions," he advised. "I know, but it feels like the right thing to do." With Walter's guidance, I established the Thompson Restoration Foundation, using a portion of recovered funds to help those Nathan had harmed. It wasn't about guilt or obligation. It was about healing the community my family had been part of for generations. Throughout these months of legal battles and rebuilding, Lily remained my anchor and inspiration. The trauma of Nathan's public meltdown at her birthday had initially shaken her, but she channeled those emotions into her art. Her new series, Broken Legacy, explored themes of family, betrayal, and redemption through hauntingly beautiful mixed-media pieces. When the Young Artists Competition announced its annual showcase, Lily hesitated to enter. "What if Uncle Nathan really did contact art schools about me?" she worried. "Then we'll fight those battles too," I assured her. "But we can't let fear stop you from sharing your voice." She submitted a powerful piece titled Glass House, a complex work incorporating shattered mirrors, family photographs, and delicate watercolor washes. When it won first place, the validation brought her to tears. "You did that," I told her as we admired the blue ribbon. "Not in spite of what we've been through, but because you found the strength to transform pain into beauty." Tyler maintained his connection with us, visiting regularly, even after moving in with his biological father. The bond he and Lily had formed, two artistic souls damaged by Nathan's cruelty, proved resilient. They encouraged each other's creative pursuits and processed their shared trauma through collaborative projects. Amber's testimony proved crucial in the case against Nathan. Despite threats from his lawyers and social ostracism from certain circles, she stood firm. When the pressure became too intense, I offered her temporary housing in our renovated guest room. "Why are you helping me?" she asked one evening as we shared tea on the porch. "I was part of his world. I dated him." "Because you had the courage to break away," I replied. "And because healing happens in community, not isolation." Therapy became an essential part of our journey, both individual sessions and family counseling, to process the years of manipulation and emotional abuse. I learned how Nathan's behavior fit classic patterns of narcissistic control, and how my own desire to maintain family harmony had sometimes enabled his worst tendencies. "Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened," my therapist explained during a particularly difficult session. "It's about releasing the power it has over your future." This wisdom was tested when Nathan's lawyer approached Walter with a settlement offer. Nathan would plead guilty to reduce charges in exchange for certain financial considerations regarding the trust. "He's facing serious prison time either way," Walter explained. But this would give you more immediate control over family assets without prolonged court battles. The decision weighed heavily on me. Part of me wanted Nathan to face the maximum consequences for his actions. Another part recognized that prolonged legal fights would only drain resources and emotional energy better spent on rebuilding. After discussing it with Lily, I agreed to the settlement terms with one non-negotiable condition. Nathan would relinquish all claims to the family business and trust, transferring complete control to me. As spring bloomed in Boston, I received an unexpected package from our father's old secretary. Inside was a collection of letters Richard had written, but never sent reflections on his regrets as a parent, his growing concerns about Nathan's character, and his belated recognition of my strengths. "I favored your brother because he reminded me of myself," one letter confessed. "Too late, I realized that wasn't necessarily a virtue. You have your mother's compassion and integrity, qualities I undervalued until facing my own mortality." Reading his words brought a complex mixture of grief, vindication, and forgiveness. My father had been a flawed man who realized his mistakes too late. I couldn't change the past, but I could honor his final intentions by rebuilding the Thompson legacy with a stronger foundation. In May, I received a letter from Nathan in prison. His handwriting, once confident and precise, now wavered across the page. "Everything I did was to protect what Dad built," he wrote. "You never understood the pressure, the expectations. I was only trying to make him proud." There was no real apology, no acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused, just self-justification and subtle blame-shifting. I recognized it as the same pattern that had defined our relationship for decades. Some people never change, even when confronted with the consequences of their actions. I placed the letter in my desk drawer without responding. Perhaps someday I would find the words, but for now, my energy belonged to those actively participating in healing Lily, our extended chosen family, and myself. 1 year after Nathan's arrest, I sat in the courtroom for his sentencing hearing. The plea deal had reduced some charges, but the evidence was too overwhelming for real leniency. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison for financial crimes, with additional probation requirements after release. Nathan showed no reaction as the sentence was read, his face a blank mask. As they led him away, he glanced in my direction, not with anger or hatred, but with something that might have been recognition. For a fleeting moment, I thought he might nod or speak, but he turned away and disappeared through the side door. I had debated whether to attend at all. Walter had assured me that my presence wasn't necessary, that the legal processes would continue regardless. But something in me needed this closure, to witness the final chapter of a story that had consumed so much of our lives. After the hearing, I drove not to the office or therapy, but to our family home. The house Nathan had tried to sell from under us now belonged to Lily and me outright. The trust funds had been reorganized, the business restructured under James's capable leadership with my oversight. Walking through the front door, I felt a peace that had been absent for years. We had repainted, rearranged, reclaimed the space as our own. Nathan's presence had been systematically removed, not out of bitterness, but as part of our healing process. The foyer now displayed Lily's artwork prominently. The living room had been transformed into a bright, airy space centered around my mother's piano, finally brought out of storage. The formal dining room where Nathan had insulted Lily's gift was now a shared studio space where both Lily and I created art. Upstairs, I paused at the door of what had once been my father's office, the official one, not the hidden room which we had emptied and sealed. The space now housed Lily's art studio, filled with natural light, works in progress, and the creative energy of new beginnings. Lily was there, working on a portfolio piece for college applications. At 17, she stood on the threshold of adulthood, stronger and more resilient for all we had endured. She had received early acceptance offers from 3 prestigious art programs, each with substantial merit scholarships. "How did it go?" she asked, setting down her paintbrush. 8 years, I replied, sinking into the comfortable chair we'd placed by the window. It's done. She nodded, processing this information. Do you feel better? Not better, I said thoughtfully. Just finished with that chapter. Ready for what comes next. Later that evening, friends and chosen family gathered to celebrate both the legal resolution and my promotion to department head at the academy. Charlotte arrived with a bottle of champagne. Walter and his wife brought dinner. Mrs. Martinez, now working part-time as our housekeeper by her own insistence, supervised the dessert table. Tyler and his father joined us, along with James, Amber, and others who had become part of our reconstructed family circle. As we sat around the dining table sharing stories and laughter, I felt the weight of the past year finally lifting. The legal battles, therapy sessions, nightmares, and anxiety attacks had taken their toll, but they hadn't defined us. After dinner, Lily disappeared upstairs, returning with a carefully wrapped package. I made this for you, she said, placing it in my hands, to mark everything we've been through. I unwrapped it carefully to find a handmade photo frame, similar in technique to the one Nathan had rejected, but more sophisticated in design. It held a photograph of Lily and me in front of the house, arms around each other, faces alight with genuine smiles. It's beautiful, I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. Turn it over, she urged. On the back she had inscribed, "Family is built by love, not blood. Thank you for fighting for us. Love always, Lily." As our guest discreetly gave us space for this moment, I pulled my daughter into a tight embrace. The road to healing wasn't linear. We would still have difficult days, painful memories, and occasional setbacks. But we would face them together, stronger for having survived the storm. That night, after everyone had gone and the house was quiet, I found Richard's last letter in my desk drawer. Next to it, I placed Nathan's prison letter, still unanswered. Perhaps someday I would find forgiveness complete enough to respond. For now, I was learning that healing didn't require perfect resolution of every broken relationship. Sometimes, true healing comes from recognizing which pieces to carefully restore and which to gently set aside as part of a past that need not determine our future. As I closed the drawer, I thought of something my therapist had said. Beauty often emerges from broken things. Lily's art proved this daily transforming pain, memory, and loss into works of striking power. Perhaps our lives could be the same kind of creation, a mosaic of broken and beautiful pieces, thoughtfully arranged into something unexpected and new. I hope this story resonated with you in some way. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who was causing harm? How did you find the strength to protect yourself and those you love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to healing. And remember, sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we're born into.